Hey, this is Kevin Fuller live with Win News Network. Listen, special report. Blessed to have in my presence Sister Karima Mohammed, formerly known as Fannie Brown, God's sister of soul, the sister to James Brown. Sister Mohammed, welcome. How are you?
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm in pain in one way. I'm kind of happy in another way
Okay.
that finally this time people and things can be exposed at what really happened to James Brown at his death.
Okay, let's get right to it. You and Tommy Ray had did an interview with the Globe and GQ magazine, and you said James Brown was killed, was murdered. And you want to bring that out. Elaborate on that if you would, real quick.
Well, as far as we all knew, when James passed, we had a few shows, I think 2 in New Jersey, 1 at BB King Club for New Year's Eve, and 13 going across Canada. And all of that was for the coming of the new year. And it was nothing wrong with James Brown. As far as we knew, he was fine. He was in good health.
Okay.
He did get sick over in London, I do know that. And he came home and he wasn't doing too well. Off and on, he'd feel good, he'd feel bad. But from different people quotes and what has happened to him during his illness, once he came home and he was sick, off and on, backwards and forth, because the Thanksgiving giveaway, and then he didn't make it to Christmas Day. So we know that he went to the hospital, but he was not sick enough to die.
Well, why are you saying he was killed? When you say someone was murdered, someone was killed, you have some evidence of that. Tell me, what led you to this point?
Well, I had a gut feeling, and of course, when you have a feeling about things, that's nothing, because that's making an assumption. And I didn't want to do that, but I was in pain as different people in the band, different singers, and different people that was around James at the end started saying things about what happened to him. I started putting 1 and 1 together and getting 2 each way I went. And then I just refused to accept that he was even dead. People would say, "We're sorry for you, we loved him." And I said, "I know, but I'll see him at the next show."
How did you come up with murder?
Different people were saying things, but of course we couldn't prove it. We just kept saying it and hoping that someone would pick up the story. Well, Mac Burback did pick it up. He's an investigator that investigate all deaths and murders of all entertainers. And he picked up the story on James Brown. He went and investigated, and according to his investigation, which is in the internet, the magazine on James Brown was murdered by Mac Burback. Birkbeck. He said that he interviewed the doctors at the hospital, and they told him that at about 9:30 that night, they gave James Brown a clean bill of health. And I'm quoting him from the magazine. And that about 12 something, James Brown was dead. But they were asked not to say anything because he was a celebrity. And from the assumption that Mac Burback put in the article, and everybody can go and get it, it's on internet, quote unquote, that the people were paid not to tell what happened to James Brown.
Okay, real quick. You saying James Brown went to the hospital. He wasn't feeling well. What was the reason for him going to the hospital in the first place?
He had surgery on his teeth,
okay,
what I understood that day. And the doctor said, or somebody said he was drunk or high or whatever, and the doctors couldn't do what was supposed to be did properly. They took him back home, and then he was rushed back to the hospital. His driver, Mr. Washington,
okay,
drove him back to the hospital, and the doctor got through checking him and making sure that he was okay. From the quote in the magazine, the doctor told him, "Mr. Brown, you can just lay here and rest since it's so far for you to go back to Aiken County, and you're dismissed and you can go home in the morning."
So he was given a good clean bill of health when he came back to the hospital.
Yes.
Told him to rest overnight.
Yes.
Then he ended up dead.
Yes.
Now when you say murder, who and why?
I think it has something to do with his last will. And I think that was the biggest thing that nobody could figure out, why anybody would murder him. What was the reason to murder him? After he was dead, I asked for an autopsy. And his daughter, Deanna, came to my hotel room in Augusta, Georgia, because we were there for that Saturday for the funeral.
Okay.
And she said that let's just leave that alone, because all these people down here, and they really love Dad, and we want him to go out good, not like Elvis Presley.
Okay, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about Tommy Ray. Tommy Ray said on Larry, first of all, who is Tommy Ray?
Tommy Ray was the woman that James Brown married. That's the mother to little Jim Brown.
Okay.
And he married her, and then later on found out that she was already married, and he annulled the marriage.
Okay. She said on Larry King Live that there was a will that Charles Bobbitt was supposed to file. And what happened? What happened there?
Well, Charles Bobbitt said after the funeral he was kind of laughing and bragging to everybody that he didn't put that condonance to James Brown will. He did not file it. Yes, it was made. Yes, James Brown gave it to him to file. He did not file it because he thought that James Brown shouldn't have left his 2 children out, Deanna and Yama, and it was a shame that he would leave his children out. And he said it to all of us. He wasn't ashamed about it or anything. He just said that he didn't think James should have left them out. So he decided not to file the condonance to the will.
Okay. He decided not to file the will. Roosevelt Johnson, who was James' valet since 1991, said that he was also supposed to get a large amount of money in the will.
Yes, in the contents of the will, Roosevelt Johnson, according to Mr. Bobbitt, and Darrell Brown, and Mr. Washington, and himself, and to late Judge Bradley, who was one of James' managers, all was left in the last contents of the will, but he refused to file it. He said he got rid of it. That was his quote.
Okay. So with him not filing the will, with him not putting the will in, who stood to gain from James' death? Where did all the money go?
The will that James left was for all children to go to school from the trust fund for the next 69 years. Any child that could get to Georgia or Carolina, that's how the will was supposed to go for the trust fund.
Okay.
He left some of the lawyers and agents over the trust fund, and in the contents of his will, I believe Judge Bradley was one of them, and Charles Bobbitt was a person also that was supposed to be on it. Of course, we know through the court, because I had a chance to go to a few of the court sessions down in Aiken County, that his lawyer David Cannon and Judge Bradley both were on the will over the trust fund. And of course, the daughter Deanna kind of like took charge of everything that was supposed to happen. The other children at the time signed up with her to do what needed to be did to get them off the trust fund, because the money was evaporating and someone was stealing.
Okay, let's go back then. Let's back up a little bit, because we're talking about murder. When you say James Brown was murdered and killed, that's very, very, very serious accusations.
Yes, sir.
And we want to make sure that you're able to back that up or verify it. So let's go back to Matt Burback, who investigates murders to the stars or to musicians.
All deaths of
all deaths.
entertainers.
And he investigates these. And now what basis? He did say that James Brown was murdered. What did he base that on?
His investigation at the hospital, his questioning his daughter Yama, his questioning of Charles Bobbitt, and I guess he said, I think if I'm remembering right, in the newspaper, he said something about the hospital letting him, I think he said see, or told him what time they left with James Brown's body. And the 3 that left with the body was Reverend Al Sharpton, Charles Bobbitt, Yama Brown, and of course the people from the funeral home that took the body.
Wow. Wow. Now I'm going to jump ahead, because you said something also that several people that was at that hospital who witnessed James Brown's death.
I don't know if anybody else witnessed the death. At the funeral that Saturday at the James Brown Arena, Charles Bobbitt said, and I quote, and everybody have the funeral can go and review the tape, review the newspapers, every TV station have it. He said, and he quoted, my wife said that when it all go down, they gonna say I killed James Brown. He said also at the funeral that he was sitting there holding James' hand, and James said that his chest was real hot. He said he got up and he went to the bathroom inside the room where James was, that he wet a towel and came back and put on James Brown's chest. My question to him and to the world is this: if you're in one of the best hospitals in the world that do surgery on every part of the body, the best in livers and kidneys, and in eye examinations and transplants, when did you become the nurse or doctor that you thought putting a towel on his chest would cure what was happening to him, instead of ringing the bell for a nurse or a doctor?
Okay, listen. What my question is, I'm always getting back to it, because when we talk about murder, I definitely want to know about that. This is something. Chip Lamar with the Atlantic News. Tell me a little bit about Chip.
Chip was Yama's husband, and Chip went on Atlanta News paper and news live. It's on the internet also. And his quote was, "My father-in-law, James Brown, did not die of a heart attack. I was there."
Not only did James Brown die, later in the X amount of time or a little bit of time, several other people turned up dead that was close to James Brown. Elaborate on that for me, if you will.
Well, Chip Lamar, and you can go on the internet and get him, he was gunned down after he left his ex-wife, Yama. According to the paper, he was meeting with her about their daughter's birthday. And when he left her, he was on his way home. And when he got home, 5 different assailants were at his house. And he was gunned down. I don't think, if I remember what the newspaper article said, he never had a chance to get out of his car.
He wasn't the only person.
Right.
Tell me some more.
Well, David Cannon, one of James' lawyers, and it's on the internet also, he was proven and verified in court, and I was there when he verified to the judge that yes, he took $7 million out of the James Brown Trust Fund and built a house for himself and his wife in Aruba. The judge, and I quote, said to him, "Go and get every deed to all houses, cars, boats, planes, everything that you and your wife own. Bring them all to court in 30 days and come in to be sentenced." I don't know what happened after he brought everything in, but later on, the internet showed where someone knocked on his door, and it's in the internet, Judge Bradley, James Brown lawyer's son and wife, both dead within an hour. Someone knocked on his door and asked for him, and his son quoted that he was David Cannon. They never let him get a chance to say Junior. They killed him at the door. His wife got the call, according to the newspaper, and it's in the magazine, like I said, and on internet, that she was ran off the road, hit a tree pole, and then kept driving until she hit a tree, and she was dead. So they both were dead in less than an hour.
And then someone else died.
James Brown, other manager, Judge Bradley.
Now, what was the connection?
I don't know the connection. I just know everybody that was close with James and that would have been involved in the payoff to the people that was at the hospital. All the people that handled James Brown financing end up dead. His lawyer, Buddy Dallas, coming out of his driveway, going down the road, and it's on the internet, an 18-wheeler pulled in front of him and hit the brakes, and all of the 18-wheeler logs came down on top of his car, went through his windshield, broke his neck. Thank God he's still living, but he's in kind of a bad shape, but he's able to speak and everything. But he said he know it was assassination on his life.
Couldn't some of this, of all of this, been just coincidental?
No way in the world.
What?
How could everybody that dealt with James Brown financing all of a sudden come up dead, start dropping dead, and only 3 people, the 3 that left the hospital with James Brown body are the only 3 that nothing has happened to or their families.
Wow. Okay, I want to talk to you about something that you're working out. You're talking about putting together a campaign for an autopsy.
I've asked for it from day one. I'm still asking for it. I'm asking people that can hear me to go on the internet. I think you have something on your internet, a way up page or something that they can go to they can sign up on the web
for a petition.
For a petition for the autopsy, to find out really what happened to James Brown, the Godfather's soul.
Wow. He is to this day not buried.
He is not buried.
Real quick, tell me about that.
Well, his daughter Deanna and Reverend Al Sharpton came on the TV, I think about 3 to 3.5 years ago, and said that they had buried James in a disclosed location, a private
or undisclosed location.
Right, a private funeral with just the family. It wasn't even a week or a week and a half later, 2 of James' grandchildren were arguing on the phone and on the internet, Facebook, on who is his legal grandchildren and who is not. And Deanna's son, Jason, and I quote because it's on the internet and you can pick it up, said, "That's why Granddad is buried in our backyard. That's why we got him in our backyard."
And that's not where he's supposed to be?
They said they had buried him.
They said they buried him.
So why would they come on national TV and say that and know that he wasn't buried?
Now, you have not yet have access to visit that gravesite?
No, it's no gravesite to visit. He's in, according to what James' other children have said, and his grandchildren, and I've talked to a couple of them this week, that he's still in Indiana backyard in a crypt.
Wow. This is Kevin Fuller with Win News Network, and we'll be coming to you with more of this story as it develops. We're here with Sister Karima Muhammad, formerly known as James Brown's sister, the God sister of soul. And this is a very interesting story that we're bringing to you today, but we want to continue to follow with this story, follow this through. And you're also seeking legal help to help with some situations and some things that's going on.
Yes, because I know I'm going to have to get lawyers in order to try to protect James' grandchildren and what he wanted for them to have, not the will that was processed and put forth with the 6 children, but the real last cognizant that he left in the will that included Roosevelt Johnson, Tommy Ray, her son, James Jr., Mr. Washington, and others that he included in that cognizant, plus the other wills that James had made and had told myself, Danny Ray, Marsha of the Shylights, and different people about that he had made years and years ago. No other wills was brought forth, but yet all the band members that spent their life with him have been told, and James had told them he was leaving them all something. So for Mr. Bobbitt to take and get rid of at least the last part of the will that he put into the will, and then brag about it to everyone that he thought what was right, I know it's going to take money. I've tried to reach lawyers for the last 3.5 years. Once I came out of my depression of knowing for a fact that James was murdered, once Mac Burback proved it, I just went into a depression. I didn't even know I was in a depression.
Wow.
And for the last, I want to say, month, I've really been able to start releasing, and I find myself crying a lot, trying to let go and know for a fact that he is gone. But they will not make a movie and get monies for his death knowing that he was murdered. And why is not an autopsy did? And why does not anyone even pay attention to what Mac Burback or his son-in-law Chip Lamar said happened to him? It's as if it never happened, and if it doesn't matter that a man is dead, and the people that had something to do with the last will, with whether it was processed or not, and also with the keeping of his body where he can't have an autopsy, is able to now to make a movie, and then they all reap rewards from a movie.
Let's talk about
his
that.
Life. That's not real.
Let's talk about the movie that just came out recently around the world about James Brown. First thing I'm going to ask you, is the movie accurate?
Some things in the movie might be accurate. I haven't seen it all.
Okay.
James' granddaughter, one of them, has told me some of the things that she's seen in it. And the movie is not accurate as far as they say it from 1971 until 1993, because we all know that it was over 35, 40 to 50 of us on the road with James when he did go back to doing shows. First he was doing small nightclubs. But out of all the people that was on the road with him, singers, dancers, valets, everybody that participated with him, no people that was on the road with him is involved in this movie other than maybe 3 or 4 people. How do you make a movie about a person for that many years and none of the people that was with him is anywhere in the movie at all?
Well, that doesn't mean they didn't do research or that they still didn't get information from those particular people. What's the reason you think that none of the original members are in the movie?
Well, not just none are in it. Some asked to be in it and told them no, it wasn't a movie about them. It was about James. Well, the band was James' life. Who do you think were the wings beneath his feet?
Okay.
Other than the band and those of us that was out there with him for all of those years to make sure that the show was right, this was right, the souvenirs was right, the sound was right, the sound check was right, their uniforms was right. I mean, people that lived with him every day. James was the hardest working man in show business. He did 800 shows a year. And I mean, at 800 shows a year, and it wasn't but 365 days in the year. The man never had a chance to go home for anybody to get to know him.
Okay, listen. Mick Jagger put up a lot of money for this movie. What's the reason behind that, you think? Was it Mick Jagger?
I can't tell you the reason for Mick Jagger. I know he was not James Brown's friend, and he already went on the internet and said that on Google. I've heard people say about the Tonight Show, what happened then.
Explain what happened real quick on the Tonight Show.
From what people say, James, every time he tried to come off, the people applauded him to come back on, encore, encore. And James kept coming on and dropping on his knees, doing please, 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 and going away with the cape on his back and flipping it off, and people kept sending for him to come back. And then the time was up, the Tonight Show was going off, and Mick Jagger never had a chance to go on.
So it's 1971, I believe, way back in the day. Mick
though.
Jagger didn't live in this country. So he flew in.
I'm not sure.
And did get a chance to go on stage.
He didn't get a chance to go on.
Okay.
I do know that,
Okay.
but I'm not sure, and I don't want to lie on him.
Okay.
I do not know him.
Okay, but he put up a lot of money for this movie, but yet you said and it's been said that there's a lot of inaccuracy in the movie. Well, is the movie meant to be his actual life or just entertainment?
Well, from what his granddaughter said about the movie curtails, from what she said, and I'm quoting her, it curtails a little bit about the first wife, Velma, a little about his son, Teddy, that died in New York in the car accident. It curtails the second wife, Dee Dee, and her two daughters, Deanna and Yama. And it's just footage and biography of what we've already seen that's in James Brown, the man, the music, the legend. So if they're showing the same documentary that everybody already have, and then some other clippings from shows that James have did down through time, from what I understand. But I know they didn't use any of the band members to play in the band. They sent out and hired musicians to play in the band. I know they didn't make the movie where James lived. They went to another state so that the people that knew James could not get angry or protest about a movie being made, knowing that some of it wasn't true. I have not seen it. People are telling me I need to go see it. But I did, and I'm quoting his daughter on the radio, Deanna and Yama, day before yesterday at V103 in Atlanta. And Deanna was saying some things about the movie, but Yama, the last one that was there, from my understanding now, of when James died, said that this movie is to prove that he was a wife beater, a abuser to my mother, and a drug addict. And I hung up the phone. I couldn't stand it.
Tell you what, this is what I would suggest that you and I do.
Yes, sir.
If it's something you don't stand for in this movie, of course you want to bring that out. But what I want to do, and not to support the movie if you feel the movie brings shame to James Brown, but I want to treat you to the movie so that you and I can go and see for ourselves what the movie depicts of James Brown. And then you can judge that based on facts that you actually know about your brother.
Yes,
if that's good with you, I think we have a movie date.
Yes, sir.
We have a movie date. Kevin Fuller, I'm here with the beautiful Sister Muhammad. And it's really, sad that when we talk about James Brown being murdered, of course, we all came up on James Brown, his movements, his words, his style, so very unique, had a profound impact on all of our lives. So to hear from his sister that he was murdered, this, of course, touches us in a very bad way. And then to see or hear that the movie depicts him in a very negative way. Of course, we all have faults in life, but to see that the movie depicts him in a very negative way, of course, that's not something that we want to stand for as we start to, it's already a case of bringing down our leaders, bringing down our musicians, bringing down people in power. We do enough things, but certainly we don't want to stand for something that's not correct. So we want to take the advantage or the opportunity to actually go out and see for ourselves what the movie depicts about James Brown, the brother of Sister Karima Muhammad, formerly known as Fannie Brown, the god sister of soul. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to actually come out and tell us what's going on. And if anything we can do with the News Network to help you at any time, please feel free to contact us.
I appreciate it, and I just want to say James left a great legacy, and he truly was the Santa Claus that went to the ghetto to want to send all our grandchildren for the next 69 years to school. And not one child has went to college yet.
Wow.
On that trust fund, because his children were in court trying to break his wheels and take the money that he left for all children in America to go to school on for the next 69 years.
And not the one person has been to court.
And they were told by Buddy Dallas when the court started, to the judge and to the lawyers, this will cannot be broke. James Brown paid $20,000 for a will that only cost $500 to make sure I closed all the loopholes. He didn't want his children to have a dime. And I can quote James Brown saying to me, when I said, James, leave them all $1. His quote to me, I don't leave them a dime, Fannie. I don't leave none of them a dime. Don't you ask me no more. I'm not leaving them a dime. I'm sending children to school with this money. So he truly loved us all. He truly was a legend, and I will not stand by and let them lynch and castrate him after he's already been murdered. He was a great black leader that went to President Johnson and all the presidents down through time to ask them to give us a chance to become great people. Don't give us integration. Give us true communication, books and schools to learn about ourselves. So I think that his legacy should be taken the way that he brought it. Yes, he had faults, but to downplay him only to get money, I mean, it's really a shame.
We want to thank you again, Sister Karima Muhammad, formerly known as Fannie Brown, the God Sister Soul, Kevin Fuller with iWin News Network. We want to thank you again for coming out. Peace, my sister.
Thank you. May God bless everyone.
And we'll see you next time right here, iWin News Network. Stay tuned. Thank you.